Good afternoon. This week's dev stream for Knitties. So what are we doing today? Today we are going to be hooking up a controller and getting our new Knitty rig to run around and interact with the world around it and all that good stuff. I think last couple of days I've demoed a couple of new features that we've added. They're not actually new features, they're just done in different ways. So one of the things we needed to do was update the rig, the in-game rig for our Knitties, our Infinity rig. We needed to update that to the latest iteration of the Knitty art, and in doing so what I wanted to do was create a system whereby we don't need to redo anything if the rig needs to be redone and such. So I've developed a pretty neat little skin weight transfer system within Unity, which basically, to cut a long story short, it makes our lives a bit easier in the long run, and also means that we're a bit more optimal. We are pivoting a little bit to WebGL delivery, although WebGL delivery these days, unless you're on an old system, it's not too similar to developing for lower end platforms like iPad and Switch, really. So WebGL, it doesn't have the same restrictions it had 5 or 6 years ago. So what we're going to be doing is, well, I guess I'll show you where we're up to. I can add I can have a little demo, I guess, of the skin switching system. I showed this in chat last night, but one of these really annoying things about OBS is when you're working a different app, the chat window doesn't stay on top, which is really annoying. So you can't see chat. So it's kind of useless because you have to have the YouTube chat window open anyway. So therefore the OBS chat there's just no point to it. Yeah, I'm just trying to get my head around this. Okay, you can dock it. That's better. I take it back. Oh, except you can't resize it. Oh my god. Right, okay, never mind. I don't think we put a tweet out about this, and I don't have control over the Twitter account now, so unfortunately I don't think it will be particularly well attended. There we go, all sorted. I think I'm sorted. Okay, I don't get it. Right, I hope I'm streaming to the right thing anyway. It's live somewhere on YouTube. So what you can see here is just my game preview screen. So this is like the live view. I'm not showing the editor views at the moment, so you'll just be able to see the live view, which means you won't be able to see all the things that I'm doing on the other screen, unfortunately. So where we're up to at the moment, this camera angle is a little bit funky. Let's just rotate this around so you can see it a bit better. There we go. So obviously there are no textures applied at the moment, and this is kind of small. This is actually true scale at the moment, so this is true scale to what Knitties are like in real life, as it were. And you'll kind of see, I guess, later on when I put some other reference objects in there that are at particular sizes, like how big this is or how small this is. So at the moment, we can swap out the cap for a beanie. Now we can actually do this with any item of clothing on the Knitty. It's just at the moment I've only, because we're just testing this new system, this new skin transfer system, I'm only doing it on the hats at the moment. So if I click this button, the cap will turn to a beanie, and then I can switch it back to a cap. I just have to manually do something here, and then click on the button again, and it'll switch back to a cap. So what the system does is it essentially just transfers skin weights between different meshes to a joint system, but I had to do something a little bit clever with it in that to make it as optimal as possible, essentially. So I had to work on that for a couple of evenings, and that's working now, and it works on any part of the Knitty. You just specify the Knitty you want it to go onto, the parent object, and the object that you're copying over, basically. So that's all going to be stored in a set of lists and such that are held centrally. So obviously as a player you don't have to interact with all that stuff. And we've also got this animation. We've got some basic animation set up. The rig is not final. The way that I'm working now means that we can rig every single component of a Knitty individually from all other components at this point, and update them and iterate on over a long term, essentially, which is pretty cool. It means that what I'm saying, I guess, is that the rig here, the skin job, is not final skinning. Obviously, I mean, we're like three years away from what I would anticipate to be a full release. Obviously, there'll be lots of alphas and betas in the lead up to that, but this is just for testing at the moment, and I'll refine it a little bit slightly before public release. This is also some corrected mocap data that we're using for animation, and there's just 3 different animations playing here. You've got an idle, you've got a walk, and then you've got a run, and we've got a blend, an animation blend system working as well. Something perhaps that AAA games need to improve on is animation blending. Some of you have probably seen the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 footage. I mean, obviously, like, many of you will have played it, but the worlds look amazing when you've got your ray tracing turned on. Yeah, they look really spectacular, and then the people just move like robots still and jump between animations because they didn't sort out the animation blending. It looks amazing, but the blending sucks. Now, that's one of the great things about Unity. Unity has some of the best animation blending in the industry. It's absolutely incredible. They focused on it like about, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. They put a lot of dev time into animation blending, and it really shows now. All these other engines and such are going to have to sort of put that effort in, but yeah, Unity kind of has this really nice animation blending system. So the objective of today is essentially to hook up a controller, hook up some physics, and get this thing running around. And luckily I've already got a bunch of modular scripts that I wrote for this. So if I've done my job right, then I should just be able to drag them on and have everything work in this new Knitty block out environment. So let's make a start on that. I'm going to hide the canvas because there's no point having the button visible. It only does one thing at this time, and well, it can do a lot more than one thing, but it was only there to as a proof of functionality, I suppose. Right, so first thing I need to do is hook up my Xbox controller. The new Apple iOS has got like really simple system now. It just connects automatically with the Bluetooth. You used to have an extra plugin for all of this stuff to work, but now you just turn it on and it's going to connect up automatically, which is amazing. Let's grab my Knitties. So what do I need to do here? I need to add something to receive my player input. This is on my other screen. You can't see any of this stuff, so you just have to wait for me to do all this. So I need to create a new player input scheme and a new set of player actions, which are just bog standard. I'm not doing anything like advanced interactions or anything, so the standard interactions will be fine. What do I want this to do when I move? I want it to invoke Unity events, and I want to create a callback function on my controller script, which is here. On movement, okay. I'm going to estimate some numbers for rotational speed and movement speeds. Let's enable all this. Okay. It's already got a rigid body and collider on it, so we should be good to go. Okay. Okay, cool. So easy as that. And the blend tree is working pretty well with the speed setting. Again, these animations are not Knitty specific animations. They're mocap animations from my library of motions of tens of thousands of motions that either I've got or libraries that I've been given or libraries from other sources. I think a lot of games are using Mixamo at the moment, which it's owned by Adobe. It's awesome. It's free. Cool. But they're not great. This one's quite nice. Quite Knitty-like, I suppose, but I think Knitties need to bounce around a little bit more. And there are some issues with this animation as well in terms of things like the shoes not really always sticking to the floor, Okay. I think it's like, the speed setting seems fine. I'm not using a root motion controller. I might switch over to root motion at some point, but I'm not all that motivated to do that. I'm more interested in having achieving like cutesy movement. What root motion means, for those who don't know, is that every step that's taken is what moves the character forward. So the character moves determined by the gate, the size of the gate, or the distance between 2 feet, which is great. That's when you've got your main character, Lara Croft, for example, in the latest Tomb Raider games, is using an IK root motion system where her feet change dynamically according to what she's walking on. Knitties isn't going to have that kind of system. It's much more stylized, and the scaling of everything makes it quite challenging to achieve that with inbuilt existing physics systems for this type of stuff. So essentially I'm working to true scale with all of the Knitties world stuff, so everything will be made to real world proportions, and character systems are generally not developed for small characters that exist within large scale worlds. Most games will accommodate this by making their characters human scale and everything else bigger, right? I'm not doing that with Knitties. We're doing this the hard way. And there's a reason for that, but I don't want to say why because I want it all to be a surprise. But there is an in-game reason for that. Okay, so yeah, this is all working pretty nicely. It's got a nice speed and feel about it. I can go nice and slow. I can bomb it around. I think maybe my rigid body needs just a little bit of adjustment, but I think we are pretty much good to go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding a few objects in here just to test out interactions and such. So this is where you're going to see kind of the true scale, I suppose, of a Knitty. There was a question in chat, wasn't there, last night about this? Was it last night? I think it was possibly last night. The jumps are the worst part, Akia says. Yeah, in Modern Warfare 2, it's so noticeable. You know that I posted one of the videos. I retweeted one of the videos. It was the shot that everyone's retweeting, which is almost right at the start of the Amsterdam level, I think. And people are going absolutely mad about it. And all I can see are all the characters jumping around. You know, like all those weird little pauses, and they'll come to the end of the animation, and they go. Like, you know, the transition isn't natural, but also there's lots of stuff to do with cloth simulation where we are probably a decade away from that kind of stuff appearing in games. But when the character you're following, not the character you're following, but your companion in that Amsterdam level. Female character walks to the right of the bridge. Like, look at the back of her coat as she walks. Look at the back of her clothing, the back of her trousers, the back of her coat, and you look at it and you go, you know, this could, if you just took that part, you could quite easily be playing Silent Hill 2, like, because if you played it at a lower resolution than 4K, you could quite easily just be looking at the back of the main character's jacket in Silent Hill 2. That sort of tech, like the cloth simulation stuff, hasn't really changed much at all. In like 20 years. It's all just flat textures, and so anyway. Okay, there was a question last night about how big are crypto Knitties in real life, and we've had these conversations before, like, and it's quite hard to communicate it effectively, I suppose, in that they do have a size. Like, if you were to get a crypto Knitty and put it on your desk in front of you, it would be quite small. But if you were to be like, if you're a Knitty in the Knitty world, then everything around you is like normal size. Like, so if Knitties were the same scale as humans, then I estimate they'd be around the size of like a 10 or 12-year-old. I think the cutouts that we had at Con were probably a little bit bigger than they would be, essentially. So if you've seen the cutouts that we had at Con, then that's the kind of size they'd be. Maybe a little bit smaller. Possibly the chief cutout is kind of an accurate size. I've got to keep an eye on the time, not because I need to dash off, but because I need to jump on and try and buy something at exactly 3 o'clock. So I'll do it live and tell you if I get it. Right. So what we're doing now, we're going to drop some objects in here. Let's drop a cube in here. A Unity cube, as default, is 1 meter by, well, it's a 1 meter cube. So let's get this cube positioned. That's a 1 meter box, essentially. And let's just hit play. And there you go. I've had to move it all the way back there so that you can kind of see it, see them both in shot at the same time. So that is a 1 meter box or cube. So that gives you an idea. Hey SatNav. That gives you an idea of the scale. My hat, yeah. Hang on a second. I think I've shown these on stream before. Let me try and get them. I've got like my room, my office is shipping central at the moment. I'm saving up all my shipping materials from the samples that I order. Outrun. I'm pretty happy with that for Outrun. Actually, like the more I look at it, the more I think, yeah, that is actually the colour of Outrun. It's maybe a little bit grey, but that's standard red. We're actually going to go with a brighter red. Bright red we're going to go for. I need to order some samples of that. Pool. It's a royal blue, basically. And it's the closest that we can get. Flame. Is it flame orange? Yeah, I think it is. I might change it up a little bit with that one. There are a couple of different oranges. Yeah. And then this one, the forest colour's really hard to get right. There's like an olive one, which is probably closer to how they appear on the Knitty, to be honest, because it's got a slightly grey tone to it. But I don't know, I think most people would like this green rather than the olive one. Anyway, so I've got a few more samples coming, and I've got a few. Yeah, khaki green would be like the olive, the OD green, right? So, but does it match a Knitty colour? It needs to match the Knitty's colours, essentially. I say match, it doesn't have to be exactly right, but you know. Yeah, so the name of the colour that we used is forest. So that sort of green would be a bit better. So potentially, so I need to order some samples of those. And I've got some child-sized ones ordered as well, so we can test out some child-sized ones. When I redo the art for the in-game beanies, let me just turn on this canvas and let's switch it up to an in-game beanie. So this is the second iteration of beanie. This is only appears on one. This style of beanie in game that you're seeing in Unity now only appears on one Knitty, and that Knitty is owned by Sunny, and it's the Shark Knit. So only Shark Knit has this style of Knitty. Beanie. All the other ones have like the old traditional style. And of course, there's been no S2s with beanies. And I'm really looking forward to doing a new beanie, you know, for on an S2 or something in the future. But I'm going to be redoing this model, like, because this is an earlier model, and it's not. It uses Maya's procedural system, still the bumpiness and threads and things. So what I'm going to be doing is rebuilding this so that it's more like a real one. It's got creases in it and things, and it's got the seams in the top will be the same as well. So it's basically that these knitties in game, these knitted hats in game, and the logo, rather than being a tag, will change to this one here. We're really happy with the quality of this logo, like how it came out. So on the beanies, so that will be how the in-game beanies appear as well. So that essentially, like, clothing items that you can buy, the merch items you can buy, if you can get them in game as well, and they'll be almost exactly the same. That's the idea. Okay, so yeah, this is the size of the scale of a Knitty against a 1 meter by 1 meter box. Okay, so that's okay, but what I want to do is I want to just I want to test like how this scaling works with like a small set of steps. So I'm just going to block out a small set of steps, drop it over here like this, and we're just testing, so it doesn't need to be like particularly excellent or anything. Obviously I'm just using a default Unity cube for this. So okay, let's add a few other objects. Let's add some physics objects. So let's add a sphere. Actually, let's add this over here as something that I can potentially climb over. And let's create a copy of this. That is approximately 10 centimeters in diameter. There we go. I'll drop a material onto that, and let's make this a rigid body. Like so. Okay. Right, so you can see this step is too big for us to get on top of. And it makes sense, right? It's like up to his chest almost, up to the Knitty's chest. So let's make this all a little bit smaller. Maybe that will be okay. I should probably test it before doing the other ones. Yeah, there we go. So that one's okay. That looks about the right size for a step. Gonna have this one a little bit bigger. And that one a little bit bigger as well, just so I can test progression up through different sizes. This is not a, this is not an exact sort of scientific method I'm using here. I'm just making things bigger and seeing if they work. Okay, so he's able, like, if I'm just walking, like at the default speed, now he actually does that first step fine, but then when the collider hits the next step, it's a struggle. Unless I ramp up the speed. So if I ramp up the speed, he can get over it. So you can kind of get over this stuff with a run up, which is kind of nice. Like, it's almost like a gameplay feature. It's not a fault, it's a feature. Yeah, okay. Let's have a look at this. Okay, and we can interact fine with other rigid body objects. Cool. What I'm going to do is just move these backwards a little bit here. And just to test my theory of the issue with getting over the steps being one of the collider. Actually, interesting. I just had a thought. I don't think he's going to be able to get over this final one. that's fine, you see. So when the steps are further apart, that one's absolutely fine. That one's a little bit harder. Oh, and you can get over this final one as well. That's okay. That's okay. Right. But now we're okay. Can't get over the sphere. Trying, like Skyrim style, like if you go up sideways, you can sometimes do it. But let's try from this angle. No. So it's a little bit steep for him to get up there, which is fine, like it looks like it should be as well. Cool. Sheba's saying, anyone interested in attending FinTech Summit in London, November 14th, 15th? Can refer people for tickets. Okay. Yeah, sort of thing I'd love to go to. Depends what the days are. I know you've got the dates there, but I'll need to look up what days they are. See if I could go. But I've got a full teaching load at the moment, so I'm doing like 3 lectures a week at the moment. Okay, so yeah, that seems to be working pretty well at this point. So you saw like what's the time now? Is it 40 minutes in? I suppose I've been actually doing stuff for about 30. So yeah, working character controller and such pretty quickly. And I guess this will probably form the basis of any sort of alphas that are within the next few months that we put out. I quite like how nippy this character is. So let's have a look at what this kind of scale means. Something that I made a note of, which would be quite good reference, is if we made something that was roughly the same size as a pencil and brought it in. So I guess that's what I'm going to do, is I'll make a pencil-sized object so that you can see, we all know the size of a standard pencil. And you can kind of see, like, relative to that, on your desk you can hold up a pencil and you can go, right, that's how big a Knitty is, right? So let's create a new, how should I do this? The best reference point is going to be a cube, because in Unity you can only resize objects based on scale. You can't say I want this cube to be X amount of centimeters wide. You have to just determine the scale based on that. And all the others have got, like cylinders have got like chamfered, rounded, right? So it's harder to determine what scale they should be, because like they're taller than they are wide and all this kind of stuff. So cube's a good starting point. So in terms of height, this is a sharpened pencil, but it's about 15 centimeters. But probably a pencil with an eraser on the end would be longer, wouldn't it? So I'm going to set the scale here to be 0.15. Each cube in Unity is 1 meter. So, and the diameter of this it's a narrow pencil. This one, I'd say that the average pencil is probably about 9 millimeters in diameter, maybe 1 centimeter at its widest point. Like if you've got those hexagonal ones, then maybe those are about 1 centimeter. Let's just say 1 centimeter. So that would be 0.01 of a meter. Okay, and you can't even see this yet. Okay, let's move it this side so you can see a bit better. That's about the size of a pencil in relation to a Knitty. So, like, if this Knitty was on your desk, like, that's quite a good reference point for it. So you can like kind of imagine, like, if we ever do some physicals, I think it'd be amazing. But if we ever get some physicals printed, then this is the kind of size that they'll be. So yeah, nice and small, nice and tidy. I've got really bad guitar at the moment, unfortunately. So I keep sniffing and coughing. Okay. Yeah, so there we've got a pencil. Now there is something that I wanted to experiment with, and that was with, and this is for a particular scene that I'm working on at the moment. I wanted to experiment with an actual cylindrical object that is about the size of a pencil. So height would be, now the thing is here is like I said, like that they're a bit of a weird dimension cylinders. Like they're a bit weird to work with. I think this is probably 2 meters high, possibly. I'm going to go with 2 meters high, but the scale is just 1, right? So you have to work back from like 2 meters high. So height wise, to get 15, I need to get 0.075, I think. That looks correct against the cube that I did before. Okay, that's all good. And then in the X and Y, it's just 1 meter, I believe. So this would be okay. So there's our pencil. Drag a material onto it. And let's rotate it around a bit. Like so. Just drop it down somewhere. Over here. So what I want to experiment with is how the character controller interacts with a low rolling object. Like an object that it can step on top of, but it's rolling. I've got a feeling I'm going to have to add some logic to the controller to fix an issue that I anticipate happening. I've not tested it yet, so we'll find out. Okay. Right. Okay, so you can see the issue I'm referring to is, you see how the animation jumps around? This is because the speed of the animation playback is determined by the difference between the previous the character's position on the previous frame as compared to the current frame. And so the faster it moves, the faster it translates around the scene. The speed it translates around the scene determines what animation plays. In this example, I'm stood on top of a physics object that's rolling, but I'm just stood, I'm not running, right? but it thinks I'm moving, it thinks I'm running, so it wants to play back the animations. So what I need to do is only play back the animations when there's some kind of controller input, basically. I can see there might be a little bit of adjustment required to the rigid body on the Knitty as well. But again, this is like really early days. All this stuff. I'll just drag this over here so you can see this temporarily, what I'm working on. So this is my editor view. This is the radius of the character controller. And so what I'll do is I'll just reduce the radius of that. Sorry, the radius of the collider. There we go. Let's give that a spin. It does have an impact on how big the steps are that they can get up, though. So a lower radius, a smaller radius, means that they can't get over bigger steps. Which, to be fair, is probably accurate in this case. Like, that is a bit big for a Knitties jump over, just without pressing jump, right? Whereas these are kind of okay. Okay, so it's not, in this case, it's the interaction with the pencil object is perhaps a bit more like it would be, but we do have to, I do need to have some logic in there just to stop the animation playback. I'm not too fussed about it right now, but it's one of those things that if we did a public alpha, you just know you're going to get a ton of feedback about that one thing that you deemed not to be important to deal with, enough to deal with at this point. So for the sake of adding a little bit of logic, I think it's worth the time. So I'm going to code this. I'm going to do this on a different screen though. Some of the code we're doing, the coding in here is proprietary, and some of the stuff is like relating to some of the systems that Adam and I are developing but aren't released yet. So I don't want to be having that on the screen at the moment. Okay. So I've got to figure out where this is going to go. So it's happening on update, and essentially we only want the update to happen if the character is receiving input. So let's just add a logic thing here. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do it. I need to do it based on like vector 3 input, I think. Okay. Okay. Right. Yeah, sorry, I know this is really boring. I'm just trying to figure something out. I might have to play around with this, I think. Essentially what I want to do... How about if I didn't do it on frame update? How about if we just did it like this? This is a hacky fix. I'm not entirely satisfied that this is going to be a good solution, but let's give it a go. No more jumpy animations. But there appear to be some other issues now that I will need to try to resolve. See that? How he's like running on the spot. Yeah, this is so it's clearly not working as intended, but that you can see like it does resolve that issue of the jumpy animation over here. So what I need to do is like play around with this and decide where the logic goes to resolve this issue. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I don't know what is causing that to lag out, or not lag, but not to move fluidly. Okay. Oh. So when I'm running around like this, everything's fine. It's because move update is only called when the value changes. Okay. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So I can't have it dependent on value change. That's why, like, if you stay at the same speed, it stops running because it never gets triggered to update. That's a thing with the Unity input controller input system. Okay, so we kind of do need to have it on update. So that isn't going to work, but what should work, and I do need the character to be able to move, but I only want it to be able to play the animations, set speed, if there is some kind of input. Okay, so let's set a just gonna do it this way for now. Like this. And we're going to assign that no, it should be okay. It should be okay. Right. input movement. Let's grab that, stick it in a new vector, read it here. Just stick an if statement around here. Just hit mute in time. Right, so let's surround this with an if. If and or I need, don't I? What is or in C#? I think it's double vertical line, isn't it? Double vertical line? It's greater than 0. Right, let's see how much I've broken it. Completely broken it. I haven't actually, I just didn't do that. Update with a lowercase u. Whoa, okay. So we've got something happening. I'm just going to set this to public so I can see what's going on. And serialize it. Oh, hang on. It is 3 o'clock. I just need to jump over to here and try and bag me some of these limited edition things. These are limited run games, and I'm trying to pick up a few excess print runs, I guess, that they had. So it should be going live at any minute now. Limited run website's gone down. Everyone's trying to get them. Ugh. Wow, didn't stand a chance. They're probably all gone. Ooh. Grab some of them. And I'm going to grab one of these, an N64 cart. And I think there were some other ones. Okay, and I think that's probably it. Okay. Just get one less of those. Whoa. Okay, I guess I will proceed with these. So I'm just paying for all these games that I just ordered. Hopefully it goes through and I get them all. Out of stock already. But everything else is all good, apparently. I'm so confused. Say my address is too long. You're only allowed 50 characters in your address, but I've used the same address for like 3 years. Well, no, not the same address, but what the hell? I don't understand. Okay, looks like we're good. Yeah, 50 character. Like a limit, yeah, you're limited to 50 characters in an address. I've never seen that before. Awesome. Done. Okay. Right, back back to it. Sorry about that. Okay. So where were we? Yeah, they had a convention, like they were at a convention or something, and Limited Run are always a little bit cheeky with stuff, but they had some editions at the convention of games that were supposed to be limited on previous releases that, oh, we just so happened to find some old stock in our warehouse that no one knew about, right? So they were selling those at the convention. Man, you know, they get called out for a lot of this sort of nonsense, but some of them were Castlevania's things, so I just wanted to make sure I got a few of those. And an N64 cartridge re-release for Episode 1 Racer, which I've got the original for, and I just wanted this one for completeness sake. Okay, so yeah, this isn't doing what I really want it to do, but I can have a quick look at what's happening here, hopefully. Interesting. Okay, right, I know exactly what's causing that, so let me fix this, and then we've kind of hopefully got a logic system set up. I want to revisit this in the future, but I think for the purposes of alphas and such, this should be fairly good. Just need to put an else in here. Ooh. In a bit of an ice skating situation there. Yeah, okay, so this isn't there we go, look. So this is not ideal. See, all of this, and all I'm trying to fix is this issue with the animation jumping as it drops down this physics object, which works, right? But then there's these symptoms of non-function that elsewhere. So like this, that will be. Why is that? I'm trying to figure out what triggers that. So this logic isn't working, so I need to kind of go back. It's going to take me quite a long time to noodle away at this, I expect. Let's see if this works. Yay! I think we got it. Yeah, we've got it. Pinned it down. Cool. And we don't have the jumpiness on the on that either, which is all good. Nice. Okay. I would like to have the collider work on the peak of the cap there, which does mean having it a bit wider. Never mind. I'll figure that out another time. I could probably add a collider to that on its own. Yeah, so this is all looking okay, actually. So that's pretty cool. Let's see if there's any chat. Satnav is the cheeky Sheba. Okay. Right. So obviously, if you've got any questions, then just drop them in the chat or in the Discord server, and I'll pick them up. Actually done quite a lot, I guess, today. Already. This is quite a jump on from where we were at recently. Like, you know, we obviously demoed the wallet interaction stuff recently, and yeah, Adam and I are developing some pretty neat tools for that, some pretty cool tooling for that, which we're going to hopefully open source if there's enough interest for that kind of thing. But you know, one of the things that we've been lagging behind on, I suppose, is getting this part back up and running and back into development. So we've done the various alphas previously, which were tests of various things that we were doing, and now we've got we're refining our wallet system, our wallet interactions, but we also needed to do an update for the art. So in-game update for the art, and that required a few efficiency additions, which is things that I've been working on the past couple of days. This is pretty nice. I mean, we could just put a little environment like this up on Knitty Nook like right now. It wouldn't take much at all. I mean, we could just output this as WebGL and it'll work, and you could play around with it maybe. Maybe we should do that. Just have it on Knitty Nook so that people can log in and log in with their Discord and run around a little bit. And we can get some feedback on the controller, on the control styles. But I think everything's working fine at the moment. Yeah, I think a lot of people will be using keyboard and mouse. There's no look function on this at the moment, by the way. I'm not sure whether I'm going to add that. I'm not sure if Knitty Nook really needs that at the moment. Like, yeah, there isn't. And in terms of placement of camera, like the Knitties that are on the screen, when they're on your screen, they're going to be around about this size, maybe a bit bigger. Like the camera might be a little bit closer. Let's just have a quick experiment with that. Originally they were a lot closer, but as the style of game that we're trying to achieve has changed, so has the position of the camera. And this will be the next step of my development work, aside from wallet interactions and Knitty customization, is the camera system. We need to develop a nice camera system. You can see here, like, see how things start getting clipped out, or we start going through objects? That's because everything's true scale. I keep saying everything's true scale. These camera systems are all developed for like human-sized characters. So like things like clipping planes are set up to be currently about 30 centimeters away from the character. So if I set this to 0.5 instead, we should be able to get a little bit closer. There we go. Okay. Let's just have a play with this and just see if how that feels. I don't like that he can run down here, but then that's just a camera follow issue, really. Cool. Yeah, I think that's working out pretty nicely. Yeah, so we don't want the Knitties to be too big on the screen because there's quite a lot potentially going on around that you need to be aware of. So this sort of size would work out quite well, I think. Questions from Scarlett. Background. Yeah, we've got the Faha Udon prints. Pretty cool. Presume I'll only be able to play this on a desktop laptop setup, no mobile. Well, it'll be WebGL. So what we could do is we could just set up we could set it up just like this if the community's happy for me to put out a grey box, like a block out like this. A few things to interact with within a closed environment, stick it on my NERC, and then you can see how it works for you. It will be browser based, so yeah, it'd be quite interesting, wouldn't it? Because we can just put that out whenever we want, you know. And of course we've got tokenized login, so that would only be visible to Knitty holders through my NERC. So maybe that's something we can do. I'll message Adam and in the team chat and just see if that's something what you can put up there, and then you'll be able to test it on your mobile. There's no reason why it shouldn't work. It depends on the input method, because I haven't designed this for touch, right? I'm not just doing this for touch, so it just depends on how that's received in WebGL, essentially. It might just work out of the box, but I doubt it. I might have to create a little UI system where you sometimes see them on games for mobile where you've got like a little controller on the left hand side or something. So yeah, that'd be interesting to test out though. And it would be like a closed off environment, so it would be something, I guess. Just build one out now. Very simple, it's just grey box type thing. Sort of looking down on this at the moment, aren't we? I think the camera angle does need to change a little bit. Generally, it's a good idea to have stuff at eye height or pointed towards that sort of position, but it's going to take a lot of refining for this particular game, because there are some interesting dynamics that we'll be implementing that respond better, or you're able to interact better with certain camera angles. Okay, so let's just surround this Knitty with cubes. Actually, we don't need it to look so brutal. We can do this. So we know that Knitties can't step over there anyway. So we can have something like this. This way people can just have a play around with the speed and such. Like, I'm not going to be, we'll receive feedback, but whether we action it at this point on stuff like character speed and things, it's unlikely, because it's such a trivial thing to address. But we can put something like this very quickly out on the website, and you can play around with it, and we can test out a few things, just like we did previously. It will be on WebGL. Yeah, maybe put a little ball pit in here or something. In fact, just whilst I remember, I'll just drop it in chat now. Knitties team chat, that is. Okay. So see what the team's thoughts are. Obviously, we've dropped previous iterations that have got fully textured and all that kind of stuff. So dropping a grey box is almost like a little bit of a step back. It's not a step back, but you can see how it might be perceived as a step back, right? Because suddenly you've got something, everything's just grey, everything's just default grey. It's like prototype environment, you know? It's not like got all the flowers bouncing around and all that kind of stuff. But actually the tech we're showcasing is better. So, but it's hard to communicate that when people see something that's really colourful, and then you roll back, that it's perceived as rolling back to something that's grey and boring. So yeah, we'd have to manage people's expectations. On that front. Okay. So I think really, like, for this afternoon, I don't have much more that I need to do. There are jobs that I do need to do, obviously, clearly, but actually in terms of like achievements over the last couple of days, I've achieved quite a lot in terms of getting the skin weight transfer system operational in a way that's dynamic and can work for any object. We did the controller setup live today, which was super simple because the way that I'd coded it previously, it was just very, very simple to drag on. And we've played around with some physics, and I did a bit of coding just to fix some animation playback issues. That's all stuff that will probably need to be redone in the future as the game gets a bit bigger and we start moving into sort of potentially future-proofing for multiplayer type stuff. Scarlett says someone like me wouldn't understand the rollback to grey if you didn't explain it. Yeah, exactly. That's my main worry. Really, is like I can just publish this to WebGL now, and you could play it. There's no problem with doing that. The only issue is as a team, how we think that would be perceived, right? And actually, sometimes it's better not to put out anything at all. I mean, the next alpha, the idea for the next alpha was actually there's going to be no Knitties in it anyway. It's just going to be a wallet test that's going to load in all your wallet stuff and populate menus and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be UI and UX thing. But even that, like, if we put that out, people are going to go, where are the Knitties? And we're going to go, oh yeah, that comes next. So yeah, hang on a second, I think somebody's knocking on my door, so give me a sec. Nope. Um, so yeah, it's like what we think is really important as developers. Like, a big step forward isn't a big step forward for community members, right? So the community members want one thing, and the developers are like, okay, hang on a second, we've just developed some really cool stuff. But yeah. Anyway, like for example, the reskin system that I've built over the last 2 evenings is awesome. It's really, really good. It is great for optimization. It's fast. It allows me to transfer complex skinned objects onto any armature in the game that I want. It's really good, but people might look at it and they go, oh, so you can put that hat on that knitty now as well, or you can just, okay, so that hoodie goes onto that onto 3 different knitties at the same time, whatever it is, without sort of appreciating probably the work and such that goes on behind the scenes on that. And the same is true of something like this, I suppose. I suppose it would be fairly straightforward to add some of the old art in here, some of the flowers and all this kind of stuff in there as well. But again, it's time, so it's how best to spend time, and I'd probably rather spend it but bringing up to date the UI and the UX and such like. Although, having said that, maybe we could use this. Maybe we could put this out. I'll put some textures on this knitty. Put some textures around this, coloured background, and we could actually do some of our UI testing a little bit sooner than we anticipated. Maybe that could be interesting. Yeah, maybe we could do that. Okay. Right, so I mean, normally I'd do 2 hours, but it's fairly quiet in here, and not much chat going on. So I've definitely achieved what I wanted to do this afternoon, which was getting the controller onto the Knitty and having us run around a bit. So with all the new Knitty stuff, right? So this is the Knitty with the shoes and the shorts, and it's all of these sort of latest additions that we've made in terms of the art. So yeah. Right. Thanks for coming along, everyone, I guess. And I'll see you next week. We're doing this every week now on a Friday. So 2 p.m. BST, or what time is that in UTC? Is it 1 p.m. UTC? Okay. So put it in your diaries if you wanted to see these on the regular. We're going to be ramping up quite quickly now, hopefully, fingers crossed, as long as we don't hit any bumps along the way. We've got our wallet. We're aiming for a wallet test within the next couple of weeks, and that's not just a standard wallet test. We've built out something really cool, like no one's done it yet on Cardano as far as we can tell. We have 0 block frost dependency, like 0, and we can pull in everything we need, which is awesome. So we didn't have any block frost dependency either because of our Ludo token system, but now potentially we don't even have any Ludo token dependency. So we've built something really, really awesome that a lot of projects going to save a lot of games projects a lot of money, basically. So that's going to be really, really cool to kind of get that out there. Right, so thanks for coming along, and I'll see you in the week and hopefully next Friday. See you later.